One ant reaches a split in the path. It pauses. Antennae move over stone. One route carries a stronger trace. The other is almost blank. The ant does not know the future of the colony. It does not know how many bodies will come after it. It does not see the line from above. It only turns and leaves the world slightly changed for the next body. Look at an ant trail long enough, and it begins to look impossible. A dark line moving across the ground, one body after another, touching, stopping, turning, continuing. No voice above them, no visible command, no single animal standing apart from the others, deciding where the many should go. And still, the line holds. It bends around an obstacle. It thickens near food. It thins where the path fails. It changes direction when the world changes. To a human eye, this can look like obedience, as if each ant were following a hidden order, a tiny worker inside a perfect machine. But that picture is too simple. An ant colony is not a kingdom with a mind at the top. The queen does not command the traffic. She does not send instructions through the tunnels. She is not the brain of the colony. And the workers are not little robots carrying out a plan they understand. Each ant has only a small part of the world. A smell, a contact, a surface, a trace, a body it meets in the dark. And somehow, from these small pieces, something larger appears. A trail, a search, a migration, a bridge, a nest, a decision. This film is about the ant. But through the ant, it is also about a form of intelligence that does not fit easily inside one skull. Not intelligence as a private thought. Not intelligence as a leader's plan. Not intelligence as a trick performed by one remarkable animal. Something stranger. A form of intelligence made from contact, traces, thresholds, and many small choices becoming one living direction. In How Nature Thinks, the ant brings us to intelligence as distributed decision, a way of solving the world when no single body holds the whole answer. Begin with the ant alone, not the colony, not the trail, not the architecture. One ant. A small body close to the ground, a pair of antennae moving through air and surface, legs reading texture, a body built for contact. The world of an ant is not spread out like a human landscape. It arrives in fragments, chemical traces, touch, vibration, light and shadow. The edge of a stone, the smell of another worker, the taste of a path, the body of a nestmate crossing close enough to become information. An ant cannot stand above the colony and understand the pattern. It does not know how many workers are outside, how much food the colony will need tomorrow, how the trail looks from the sky, where every tunnel leads. Which option is best in the abstract? Its window is narrow, but the colony's problems are not. Where is food? Is the old nest still safe? Should more workers leave? Which new home is better? When should a trail be followed? When should it be abandoned? When should a body become a bridge? These are not decorative questions. For a colony, they can mean survival. And this is the first difficult thing the ant asks us to understand. The intelligence of the colony does not come from making every ant wise. It comes from arranging many limited animals in such a way that their limits begin to work together. A worker meets another worker. Antennae touch. A chemical signal is received. A path becomes more likely. A threshold moves closer. A small action becomes part of a larger pattern. The ant does not need the whole map. It needs the next cue. And if enough bodies respond to enough cues, the colony begins to behave as if something larger than the individual has appeared. Not because any ant knows everything, because no ant has to.
The hardest misconception to remove is the simplest one. Someone must be in charge. Humans reach for this idea quickly. If there is order, we look for a ruler. If there is movement, we look for a command. If thousands of bodies seem coordinated, we imagine a plan. And in an ant colony, the obvious candidate seems to be the queen. The word itself misleads us. Queen. A human title placed on an insect body. A crown we invented for an animal that does not rule in the way the word suggests. The queen is central to the colony's reproduction, but she is not directing a foraging trail. She is not choosing the architecture of the nest. She is not telling one worker to collect food and another to carry brood and another to inspect a new home. The colony works without that kind of command. This is where ants become genuinely difficult, because the organization is real, but the organizer is missing. There are patterns, but no planner. There are decisions, but no single decider. There is movement that looks purposeful, but the purpose is built from below. Inside the nest, workers meet one another as bodies. A returning forager may carry the smell of food. A worker inside the nest may meet more returning foragers than usual. That rate of contact can matter. Not the whole count, not an overview, just the bodily fact that more of this kind of encounter is happening now. And from that, behavior can change. Leave, wait, search, follow, carry, build. The colony does not need a leader to regulate itself if local information can move through contact. A brief meeting becomes a signal. Many brief meetings become a pattern. A pattern becomes a shift in work. This is not less impressive than command. It may be more unsettling. Command gives us a center. Ants show us order without one. A trail is not only a path. In an ant colony, a trail can become a kind of memory. Not memory inside one brain. Not a picture carried by an individual. Not a story. A memory laid into the world. An ant finds food. On the way back, it leaves a chemical trace. Another ant encounters that trace. The path becomes more likely. If the food is valuable, more ants return along the same route. More bodies reinforce the signal. The trail grows stronger. The ground is no longer neutral. It has been marked by previous movement. It carries the past into the next decision. This is one of the quietest forms of intelligence in the ant world. The colony does not store all memory inside bodies. Some of it is placed outside them, on soil, on stone, on a branch, in a line that another body can read. But this memory is not permanent, and that matters. A trail can fade. The chemical trace weakens. The world stops recommending that path.
If the food is gone, this fading is not a failure. It is part of the system. A permanent memory would become dangerous. The colony would keep returning to a place that no longer gives anything back. So the trail must be strong enough to guide and weak enough to disappear. This is the balance. Deposit, follow, reinforce, fade. Search again.
A trail is a decision that can strengthen or dissolve. A line written by bodies, edited by time, corrected by absence. When we watch ants follow one another across a stone, we are not only watching obedience, we are watching memory outside the body being tested by the world. But memory can mislead. The same logic that builds a road can also build a trap. In some ants, under the wrong conditions, a moving column can bend into a circle. One ant follows another. The line closes. The trace keeps reinforcing itself. The path has no destination anymore, only continuation. A circle of bodies moving because the signal still says move. This is one of the shadows of distributed intelligence. A signal is powerful because it changes behavior, but once behavior begins to reinforce the signal, the system can become heavy with its own direction. A trail can remember food. It can also remember a mistake. A path can organize movement. It can also keep movement from asking where it is going. This does not make the colony foolish. It makes the system real. Every form of intelligence has a risk inside its strength. A fast predator can misread the moment and waste energy. A social mammal can trust the wrong signal. A bird can follow a pattern that no longer fits the sky. And an ant colony can amplify a path until the path becomes stronger than the world that made it useful. This is why the ant is not a symbol of perfect collective wisdom. That would be too simple. The many are not always wiser. A trace can guide. A trace can trap. The intelligence is in how the system keeps adjusting before the trap becomes the whole world. Now imagine the old nest is damaged. The roof opens, light enters where darkness should be. The chamber is no longer safe. For a small colony, this is not inconvenience. It is emergency. Brood must be protected. Workers must move. A new home must be found. But who chooses? There is no architect beneath the soil, no committee in the dark, no leader comparing every possible site. Only workers leaving, searching, returning. Some find nothing. Some find a cavity. Some inspect darkness, entrance size, interior space, distance, safety, texture, the conditions that matter to a small animal trying to protect a colony. But even here, the individual ant's knowledge is limited. A worker may inspect one site, maybe two. It may not know every option. It may not know what another worker has found. And still, the colony must decide. In studies of rock ants, this process becomes almost theatrical. A colony needs to move. Scouts discover possible nest sites. A worker that finds a promising site does not move everyone at once. At first, it recruits slowly. It may lead another ant there in a tandem run. One ant guiding one follower. The leader moves forward. The follower touches. The leader pauses. The follower catches up. A path is not announced. It is taught by movement. If the site is poor, support may not grow. If the site is good, more ants arrive. The new place begins to gather bodies.
And then, something changes. At a certain point, the behavior switches. The colony does not wait until every worker has inspected the site. It does not require every ant to understand the choice. When enough ants are present at the new nest, a threshold is reached. A quorum. After that, recruitment becomes urgent. Workers begin carrying nestmates, brood, passive adults, pieces of the colony's future. The decision becomes movement. The old nest empties. The new nest fills. No single body has held the whole choice, but the colony has made one.
A threshold is not a thought. It is not a sentence. It is not a vote in the human sense, but it can change everything. Before the threshold, the colony is still testing. After the threshold, it begins to commit. This is where distributed decision becomes visible. A single worker can be wrong. It can inspect a poor site and return with confidence. It can respond to a local cue that does not represent the whole situation. The colony does not remove error by making every individual perfect. It reduces some kinds of error by letting many partial signals compete and accumulate. Better sites can attract support faster. Stronger evidence can build more quickly. A site that gathers enough workers becomes not just an option. It becomes a destination.
This is not human reasoning. No ant sits in the dark and thinks, now we have enough evidence. No ant understands the mathematics of the group. But the process can still do something reason-like. It can delay commitment. It can gather local information. It can amplify a stronger option. It can switch from slow investigation to urgent action. And that switch matters. A colony that waits forever may lose brood, warmth, safety, time. A colony that moves too quickly may choose badly. So the problem is not only where to go. The problem is when enough is enough. This is one of the deepest questions in any living decision. When do you keep searching? When do you stop? When is uncertainty still useful? When does hesitation become danger? The ant colony does not answer with language. It answers with a number of bodies in a place, with the pressure of presence, with the moment at which exploration becomes transport. A threshold is the colony's way of turning scattered attention into action.
It would be easy to make the story too beautiful now, to say the colony is always wiser than the ant, that many are always better than one, that the group corrects what the individual cannot see. But nature is rarely that clean. A colony can be wiser than an individual, but not always. In experiments with nest choice, researchers have compared how isolated ants and whole colonies perform when choosing between possible homes. Sometimes the difference between sites is easy to detect. Sometimes it is subtle. When the task is difficult, colonies can outperform isolated ants. The group, through interaction and feedback, can sharpen a distinction that one ant may miss. This is the version of collective intelligence people like to celebrate, the wisdom of many, the small signals becoming something larger. But the more interesting detail is the limit. When the task is easy, individuals may do better than colonies. That should stop us, because it makes the ant story more honest. The colony is not a perfect brain. The group is not automatically wise. The same feedback that builds confidence can also build momentum.
A path can become attractive because others have taken it. A site can gather bodies and begin to feel inevitable. Once enough of the system leans in one direction, the system can become less sensitive to what a single clear signal might have shown. This is not a failure of distributed intelligence. It is distributed intelligence becoming real. It has strengths, it has costs. It can integrate partial information. It can protect against some individual mistakes. It can make fine differences more visible through collective sampling. But it can also lock on to a direction. It can turn reinforcement into blindness. The ant does not teach us that the group is always right. It teaches us that intelligence changes shape with the problem life gives it. Some problems are better solved alone. Some require many. Some need speed. Some need hesitation. Some need the courage to commit before everything is known. Some need the ability to stop following a signal that has become too strong. In some ants, the decision becomes physical. A trail reaches a gap, a break in the branch, an opening in the path. A space small enough to cross, but large enough to slow the traffic of the colony. For an army ant raid, delay matters. The colony is not moving as a loose crowd. It is a flow. Food must return. Workers must pass. The trail must stay alive. And then something extraordinary can happen. Some ants stop being walkers. They become the road. They link their bodies across the gap. Other ants cross over them. The living bridge forms where traffic and terrain make it useful, not as a fixed monument, not as a heroic sacrifice chosen by one animal with a plan, as a dynamic structure made of bodies responding to local conditions. The bridge can widen, lengthen, shift, move from its first position. It can become a shortcut when the shortcut is worth the cost. And when the traffic no longer justifies the bodies held in place, the structure can dissolve. This is not architecture in the human sense. There is no blueprint, no measurement drawn in advance, no engineer calculating the final span. But the result has the logic of engineering. A path is shortened. Traffic improves. Bodies are spent where the gain is worth it. The bridge is not free. Every ant in the structure is an ant not doing something else. Not carrying prey, not moving forward, not searching, not defending. The colony must balance two costs: the cost of a longer path and the cost of turning living workers into infrastructure. No individual ant needs to understand that equation. The equation is solved through the pressure of many bodies in the gap. Traffic, contact, position, persistence, release. The world interrupts the trail. The colony does not merely go around, it becomes the missing piece of the world. Every collective decision has a shadow. A signal is useful because it changes behavior, but that is also why it has a cost. A pheromone trail can bring workers to food. It can also keep them returning to an empty place for a while. A quorum can protect the colony from acting too soon. It can also push the colony into commitment once enough support has accumulated. A bridge can shorten a path. It also removes bodies from other work. A system made of many small actions must constantly balance the value of action against the cost of the bodies performing it. This is where the ant becomes less like a machine and more like a living economy. Not money, energy, time,
risk, exposure, workers outside the nest, workers inside the nest, bodies carrying food, bodies carrying brood, bodies becoming structure, bodies searching where nothing may be found. The colony has no accountant, no central table of costs, but costs still exist. And if the colony is to survive, those costs must somehow be felt. Sometimes they are felt through traffic, through how many bodies pass, through how often workers meet, through whether a trail continues to be reinforced, through whether a bridge continues to be used. A worker may not know the colony is balancing effort against benefit, but it can respond to pressure, to contact, to the weakening of a signal, to the flow of bodies over its own. And from these local sensations, the larger system adjusts. This is a hard kind of intelligence to see because it does not look like contemplation. It looks like movement. It looks like repetition. It looks like simple behavior. But simple does not mean meaningless. If a body joins when pressure is high and leaves when pressure falls, the colony can regulate a structure without anyone designing it. If a trail fades when no one reinforces it, the colony can forget without anyone choosing to forget. If a threshold changes the mode of recruitment, the colony can turn uncertainty into action. Sometimes intelligence is not a brilliant moment. Sometimes it is a rule small enough for one body, repeated until the system can answer a larger world. The story humans tell about ants often reveals more about humans than about ants. We call one animal queen. We call others workers. We imagine hierarchy because hierarchy is familiar to us. We imagine command because command makes order easier to understand. We imagine the colony as a factory, a kingdom, an army, a machine. Each metaphor gives us something, and each one takes something away. A factory makes the ant seem mechanical. A kingdom makes the queen seem sovereign. An army makes movement look like obedience. A machine makes the colony seem cold. But the colony is alive in a way those metaphors cannot fully hold. It is not gentle. It is not peaceful. It is not morally pure. Ant colonies can be violent, territorial, relentless. Some farm other insects. Some raid. Some destroy with terrifying efficiency. We do not need to make ants noble to take them seriously. That would only replace one false story with another. The ant is not important because it gives us a moral lesson about cooperation. It is important because it shows another way intelligence can exist, a way that is not centered in personal insight, a way that does not require a commander, a way that can be efficient, flexible, brutal, fragile, and astonishing at the same time. The colony is not telling humans how to live. It is not asking us to become more collective, more obedient, more selfless, more productive. That would be too easy and too human. The ant does not exist to become our metaphor. It exists because this arrangement of bodies, signals, thresholds, and work has survived. The real lesson is not that ants are better than us. The lesson is that intelligence is wider than our favorite image of it. It does not always look like a face thinking in silence. It does not always look like a clever animal solving a puzzle alone. It does not always belong to a single body. Sometimes it appears only when the individual is not enough.
Across this series, one idea keeps returning. Intelligence is not one thing. It does not have one body, one speed, one texture, one kind of beauty. It can be carried through generations, rebuilt in solitude, shaped by rank, danger, rhythm, sound, pressure, memory, and the presence of others. It can live in the timing of a moment, in the reading of a signal, in the ability to find order where the world looks like noise, in the way one body responds when another body's state becomes impossible to ignore. Each animal changes the question, not by becoming more human, but by showing another architecture of mind. The ant adds a form of intelligence that does not begin with a single thinker. It gathers itself through contact, through traces left in the world, through thresholds that turn uncertainty into movement, through trails that carry memory outside the body, through bridges where living workers become, for a moment, the road itself. No ant holds the whole pattern, and yet the pattern works. The colony searches, commits, redirects, remembers, forgets, and moves as something larger than any one body inside it. This is not the intelligence we are trained to recognize. There is no gaze to meet, no face asking for affection, no small version of a human mind hidden inside an insect body. The ant asks for a harder kind of seeing. A decision can belong to a system. A way forward can emerge without a single animal understanding the whole pattern. A path can be strengthened by those who walk it and abandoned when the world no longer answers back. The ant does not give us a theory. It gives us a trail, a nest emptied and filled, a bridge made of bodies, a direction farmed from many small encounters. The mind no one owns is not above the ants. It is not hidden inside the queen. It is not a ghost in the colony. It is the colony in motion. Somewhere tonight, under a stone, inside a wall, beneath a root, or in a chamber we will never see, an ant colony is adjusting. Not dramatically, not for us. A worker meets another worker in the dark. A forager returns. A signal is stronger than it was before. A trail weakens where the food is gone. A chamber grows crowded. A threshold approaches. Outside, a line of ants crosses the ground. To a passerby, it may look like nothing. A nuisance, a small invasion, a moving stain on the pavement, something to step over, something to wash away. But inside that line is one of the oldest experiments in collective life. No single body draws the map, and still, paths appear. No single body commands the move, and still, the nest can empty. No single body designs the bridge, and still, the gap can close. The ant does not give us the kind of mind we are used to honoring. There is no gaze to meet, no face to soften the distance, no individual genius stepping forward from the many. Only bodies, signals, contact, traces, thresholds. A decision spread so widely that no one owns it. And perhaps that is why the ant matters. Because it forces intelligence out of the skull, out of the individual, out of the lonely image of a mind thinking by itself. It shows us that life has found other architectures, A mind can be solitary. A mind can be social. A mind can be carried in memory, sound, touch, pressure, or grief. And sometimes a mind can move through thousands of bodies at once, not as a single thought, but as a living pattern, a path made by those who walked before, a choice made by those who did not know they were choosing, a colony becoming more than any ant inside it. This is not the mind we expected to find in something so small, but it may be one of the minds we most need to understand. At Known Wild, we follow hidden worlds through the living world. One species, one question, one form of intelligence at a time. Subscribe, and the next story will find you.